Let's continue reviewing all the functionalities of the Mistral AI API, and today our focus will be on the libraries and their documents. So libraries are simple containers, and you use them to store some documents on the Mistral servers. So you can create them in Studio or in Vibe, and they will be accessible from anywhere. Let's just create a client as usual as a first step to communicate with the services, and start by listing the libraries. So as usual, when you want to list some resources from the Mistral API, you use a list method. Just be careful that libraries are still a beta functionality, at least in the API. So after our Mistral client, we access through beta and then libraries. I suppose they should be moving soon as a standard feature. And we will display it. So we get this object in response, list libraries response. And if we scroll a bit more to the right, we can find a data property here, which is a list containing all our libraries. So we will access specifically this property to display our libraries. We have already saved this big object in libraries, so I will just access it with libraries.data. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm looping through libraries.data, and for each library, I'm extracting a few properties such as ID, name, number of documents, and description. And we can see here that I've got 5 libraries currently on the Mistral servers. So here, for example, this is an indexed website which I used. I wanted to see if it can improve my searches on the Mistral documentation. And there are 338 documents indexed over there. I've got, for example, here library images for tutorials. This is one that we will delete right after because we will recreate it in this tutorial. So it contains some images, and to make sure that we can work on different data, I've got also an IFRS library which stores all the IFRS standards, so some accounting standards in PDF files. So the next step we will do, as we said, is to delete a library. So I want to delete that one because we will recreate it right after. So like this, we can check how to delete and how to create a library with this API. So when you want to communicate with a library with this API, you need the ID of the library. So I will just grab it here. And you see that I simply need to do mistral.beta.libraries like before, and this time we use the delete method, and we need to provide the library ID. So I will paste it here, execute the cell, and it should be fine. So let's have a look now. If I list again my libraries, if I see only 4. So I re-execute this one, and indeed there are only 4 libraries here. What we can also do, there should be the link here. Let's check directly on the web UI how it looks like. So here I am in Studio, and I am specifically in libraries, and you can see also the 4 libraries here. So this is another way you can access them. If you don't want to access them programmatically, you can just open this page, click on the different libraries, and you will be able to just go through the different documents, open them, see the summary, and so on. But this video is about the API, so let's go back to VS Code to see how to do all of this programmatically. So we have already deleted this previous library, and now we want to create a new one. And as you can guess, we are using almost the same path to access it, but this time we are using the create method instead of delete. And we provide both a name and a description. So I use, like before, images for tutorials. So I will store in this library all the images that I include in this type of notebooks on the YouTube channel. And the description, a library to store images used in tutorial notebooks. After that, I will just display the object to see how it looks like. So I execute it, and you see that I get back a library object in return. There is an ID, which will be useful for me whenever I need to do something about this library. And then you can see all the other metadata if you scroll to the right. So whenever we will want to upload some documents in this library or do other types of manipulation, we will be able to just refer to it by taking this variable and extracting the ID specifically. So we will use this several times probably. So having a library, it's good, but it's even more useful if you can upload some documents in. And as documents are nested under some libraries, so you upload documents in some libraries, this is how you access them with the Python SDK. So the same as before for libraries, and then you continue one level to include the documents. And I could find here, probably when I got an error message one time, the list of all file formats that it supports. So probably everything you can think of almost, except I realized when I tried to upload some files earlier that it could not upload my SVGs files. So that's probably one of the only exception I've found so far. So all my images for these notebooks, they are in a folder called images in the current working directory. We can see them here. So these are all these images that I include in the notebooks. So what I will do first, not related to the API, I will just create a list of all these files. So I'm using from Python the pathlib library, and I'm creating a list with all the files which are in this path. And then with the glob method, I can also include a filter on the files to keep only the PNGs files. So we execute, and we can see here the path to all the files which are included in this folder, which are PNG files. And now we'll be able to loop through all this path and upload each file into the library we just created earlier. I will take this class from the Mistral AI API, or SDK in that case, more specifically. So from Mistral AI.client.models, this is where we find all the classes to work with. We will import file to represent a file to be uploaded. And here you see that all these paths were saved in the variable files. So I can just loop through it. So for file in files, and for each of them, first of all, I open it in Python. So the open method, and I'm using the method rb to read bytes, and whatever content is saved here, or you can refer to it as file content. And then as you might expect, mistral.beta.libraries.documents.upload. So logically, this is the method to upload a document. You need to provide the library ID to know to which library you upload the documents. And we say we can refer to our new library with this image library.id. And after that, of course, the library is not enough. You also need to provide the file. So we use this class to represent the file, and you need to provide a file name and some content. So we know that the content, the raw bytes, we can access them with this variable name here. So this is what I pass. And the file name, I'm just extracting actually the name of the file from this different path. So for each of this object, like this one, here I'm using a method from pathlib, so I can extract only the file name. And let's do this. May take a bit of time. Let's see. 5 seconds, it's reasonable. And now let's check what are all the files which are in this library. Still some consistency. So this is the same as libraries. To list some content, of course, you need to add the documents level. So Mistral beta libraries documents list, and you pass the library ID, so it knows which library you need to list the content for. And after that, we can still go through the data and display each document. So here I decided to extract only the ID and the name. And we can see all the files now that are uploaded into the library. And maybe I can go back to Studio. I will go to the libraries. We should see our new library, images for tutorials. If I click here, I can see indeed all the files that I've just uploaded. So let's inspect the first document a bit more closely. So this will be this one. So I started again from this list. So the same as we did before. And this time I create a variable doc where I'm taking just the first document, so at the index 0. And now that we've got this document object, and we see that indeed it is called a document object, we can check all the master data related to this document. So there is the ID here that can be useful as well if you want to interact with this specific document. You can see the library it belongs to. You can find the extension it is, the size, and a lot of information about that document. Something that I was pleasantly surprised about is that it also automatically creates a summary for each document. So it will inspect the content of your document and create an AI summary about the document content, which can be helpful when you are doing some searches on your libraries. So here, if I execute this one, we can see that it says the diagram illustrates the Mistral API structure featuring 3 primary services: chat, embedding, OCR. So which document was it? It was using client. Let's check if it is in the right order. And indeed, that was an illustration of different services that you can use when you instantiate a client. So chat, embeddings, OCR, and so on. So this is a correct summary and extremely useful for some search functionalities. So next, to find a text document in another library. So here what I'm doing, so I'm still listing some documents, but I took another library, and this is my IFRS library ID. Then I go through the data, I take the first document and extract the ID. So I want just to know what is the ID of the first document in my IFRS library. And the reason I'm doing this is just to show you some different functionalities that you can also access the text content of a file as long as it contains some text. So before we were dealing with images, so of course we did not have access to this text content property. However, if you manage to find a text document, this is something that will be available to you. So once again here, when I'm trying to access a specific document, so Mistral, beta, libraries, documents, and here I say I want specifically directly the text content, I can do it with this library ID and with my document ID. And then I'm just displaying the beginning of the text from this PDF file, so the first 1000 digits, and you can see here all the text that it extracted from this PDF. I'm writing here just to remember, that's what I wrote, that unfortunately I could only find the text content at the moment, but not the raw bytes representing the file content. So I did not find a possibility to download the files from the libraries. So if you remember from previous video, we had this functionality when we use the files endpoint. However, this is to communicate with files of different services like OCR. When you are dealing with a library, there is not a way to download the documents yet. I'm sure this is on the way, they are probably working on it, and that's probably why it's still a beta functionality. However, this is something which is really missing at the moment. And this is a short introduction of how you can work with these libraries. And I leave you with that, and I will try to find another functionality to document for you in the next video. Bye bye.